Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a trading card game we all love and enjoy. Some of us have even grown up together with it, as it has evolved through the last 20 plus years into the phenomenon it is today. It is also not just a card game. Starting off as a manga and with more than 10 anime adaptations and 3 movies, as well as multiple video games, it has become a massive media franchise. In this series, we're going to be covering its complete history. Starting off with the year 1996, the release of the manga in Japan. We are going to be diving into its beginning, spin-offs and media, its evolution as a trading card game, and into many interesting and important events surrounding it, some closely tied to the game itself and also its competitive sphere as a whole. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga was created and written by Kazuki Takahashi. He knew he wanted to become a manga artist very early on in his life, but success never comes easy. Some of his earlier work showcased his immense potential, but was even turned down, and some of it just wasn't as worldwide as Yu-Gi-Oh! Proved itself to be. Finally, he started to see the fruits of his labor, with the release of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga in 1996. As for his involvement in the later products and ways in which Yu-Gi-Oh! Has evolved, he is still very much active and even makes alternate artworks for specific cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, such as the Egyptian God cards, Jinzo, Dark Magician Girl, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, and Shiba Warrior Taro, dedicated to his dog, to name just a few. Before coming up with Yu-Gi-Oh!, his initial wish was to create a horror manga, one including fighting as well. He wanted to be original, and came up with the idea of fighting amongst characters without actually touching each other, but didn't know how to make it work at first. Having been a fan of games throughout his childhood, he decided to use different kinds of them, as well as tabletop ones, to indicate the fights. Some of those games were even made up by him. The manga was based on 2 important aspects, with the first one being how the games played helped the protagonist become a hero, brave, confident, and strong. Yugi was a weak and shy boy whose different side would reveal itself when playing games. The name Yugi means game, and therefore Yu-Gi-Oh! Is king of games. The second aspect was the importance of friendship, and the character names Yugi as well as the name Yunuchi, later known to us as Joey Wheeler, were both based on the word Yuyo, meaning friendship. The manga was serialized in Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump magazine between September 30th, 1996 and March 8th, 2004 in 38 volumes. The first chapter, called Puzzle of the Gods, was released in the issue 42. Shueisha Inc. is a Japanese publishing company, with Weekly Shonen Jump magazine being one of the manga magazines it publishes. Some of the world's most famous mangas come from them, and were serialized in the Weekly Shonen Jump as well, such as One Piece, Dragon Ball, and Naruto. They also own Viz Media, a North American publishing company which publishes the manga translated in English. But when did the game we know today first appear in the manga? It derives from the game Magic and Wizards, an homage to Magic the Gathering. And although, as mentioned, games were of importance to Takahashi, he didn't actually plan on this one in particular to be featured more than twice. As the game Magic and Wizards was first introduced, the company actually received a lot of fan mail from people hoping it's going to be featured again. Its first appearance was in Chapter 9, and continuing into Chapter 10, making it the first chapter being a continuation of the previous one. There are a couple rules to the game we are introduced to, and although they are not as complex as nowadays, the basics are the same. There are no matches, however, only duels, and each player of the 2 participating has 2,000 life points. Both players draw a 5-card hand before they begin, and they must also shuffle their deck, consisting of 40 cards. Each turn, the turn player draws a card from their deck, and the way to lose would be by either losing all life points or being unable to draw a card at the beginning of your turn. There are 2 types of cards, unlike today, where we have the third type as well. Monster cards and spell cards are the only 2 types, and certain rules apply to them. Monster cards can be summoned to the field in either attack or defense mode, and each turn, the turn player can declare an attack with their attack mode monster cards on the opposing player's monsters or directly on them if they don't control any. The attack and defense stats of monsters are then compared, and the one with the highest value comes out the battle victorious. The monster with fewer attack or defense points is sent to the graveyard, and if it was in attack mode while still on the field, The difference in attack points is deducted from the monster's controller's life points. Spell cards cannot battle. They are to be used to impact the game in other ways. It is also meant to be a trading card game, in the sense of players putting one of their cards on the line and the winner collecting both of them. Throughout 1996, 11 issues of the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine were released, containing 11 chapters. In the first one, we are introduced to Yugi and his friend Anzu, Thea Gardner, and soon to become friends Hiroto and Katsuya, Tristan Taylor and Joey Wheeler. Yugi solves an ancient millennium puzzle, given to him by his grandfather that he was unable to solve for 8 years. As he finally solves it, it's soon revealed that a spirit of an ancient pharaoh resides inside of it. He lost all his memories and sometimes takes control of Yugi's body when he senses corrupt people want to harm Yugi or his friends. He challenges them to shadow games as punishment. They are always different and seem to be made up on the fly by the pharaoh. But his opponents usually cheat and are therefore forced to participate in so-called penalty games. Most of those are extremely dark and intended to punish the person responsible for doing the characters wrong, either by taking their life or completely corrupting their mind. In the Duel Monsters anime, only one penalty game is used, called Mind Crush, with the intent to exorcise the evil parts of Seto Kaiba's soul. 3 penalty games also have cards based on them: Greed, Mind on Air, and Mind Crush, with the latter also seeing competitive play in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game a couple years back. The manga is overall very different from most of the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Media. Its anime adaptations covered events from chapter 60 onwards when it comes to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. Therefore, we are going to go over a short summary of the first 11 chapters. In chapter 1, we are introduced to the main characters. Yugi becomes friends with Honda and Yunuchi, but it takes some trials and tribulations to get to that point. At first, they make fun of Yugi and bully him, even going as far as to steal a piece of his puzzle so he couldn't finish it. However, they start to feel bad after Yugi stands up for them when they are the ones being bullied by another student named Ushio. That night, Yugi solves the Millennium Puzzle and participates in the first shadow game in which Dark Yugi, the Pharaoh, is revealed. Ushio is trying to make Yugi pay him money, and Yugi invites him to play a game instead. Both players must take turns in stabbing a knife through banknotes resting on their hands. If you stab yourself or quit, you lose, and the winner gets to keep all the money. Ushio cheats and tries to throw the knife toward Yugi to hurt him, and is punished by a penalty game, Illusion of Avarice, in which he sees money falling everywhere and bathes himself in a pile of green leaves, thinking it's banknotes. In chapter 2, the antagonist is a ZTV director. He stages a documentary about bullying to get a lot of ratings, and in the process attempts to make Yugi the star of the show by getting him beaten up. As Yunuchi tries to attack the director to protect Yugi, he is reminded of being filmed, so he can't do anything. However, when the camera stops filming, he gets beaten up himself. Dark Yugi appears and proposes a shadow game with the director. They are both to roll a dice, and if the director rolls lower or equal to Dark Yugi, he wins. After seeing Dark Yugi roll a 6, he automatically thinks he's won. And in frustration, because Dark Yugi wants him to roll the dice anyway, he throws it at him. Dark Yugi luckily intercepts it with his Millennium item, the puzzle. The dice breaks and lands on a 1 and a 6, adding up to 7. Therefore, the director lost, and the penalty game that awaits him is called Mosaic Illusion. His vision pixelizes like a blur used on TV. In chapter 3, Yugi needs to teach a bully a lesson once more. This time, he is forced to sell tickets to Suzoji's concert, as is another student and Yugi's friend, Hanasaki. They both know nobody is going to buy the tickets because Suzoji's singing is horrible, and Yugi offers to try and sell both of their tickets, so only he gets punished if he fails. Suzoji unfortunately finds out, and after Yugi attends his concert and tells him he sadly couldn't sell any tickets, the singer reveals a special guest. The guest is a beaten-up Hanasaki, and after seeing that, Yugi's dark side reveals itself and challenges Suzoji to participate in a silence shadow game. 2 sound Pierrot dolls are placed on the table. They dance if a sound is heard nearby, and whichever of the players makes their doll dance first loses. Dark Yugi's doll seems to be at the verge of moving. In the excitement of seeing Dark Yugi is about to lose, Sozoji's heart starts beating very loudly and is amplified by the speakers. His microphone was very near and the doll starts dancing. After losing, the penalty game inflicted on him, called Beat Festival, makes him listen to the sound of his heartbeat getting louder and louder. Chapter 4 is dedicated to us getting to know Yugi's friend Anzu a bit better. They've been friends from the beginning of the manga, and after Yugi and Yonuchi notice her strange behavior, it causes them to follow her after school. It is revealed she has been working at a burger restaurant to save money and go to America after finishing school to study dance, her passion. Meanwhile, an escaped convict makes his way to the restaurant. He makes Yugi get him a drink and cigarettes, takes Anzu hostage and slaps her. Enraged Dark Yugi comes out and proposes a shadow game. Both players must choose one finger to be the only one they are allowed to use. That's the only rule. The convict chooses his index finger and is preparing to shoot Dark Yugi using his gun. But since Dark Yugi chose his thumb, orders Dark Yugi to light him a cigarette first. After doing so, Dark Yugi places the lighter on his opponent's hand, as the convict has just started pouring himself a drink. He realizes that if he moves his hand, the lighter will fall into the drink. Struggling, he begins to say something, but the cigarette falls instead, causing him to catch on fire. Dark Yugi saves Anzu, which falls in love with him in the process, not knowing it's really Yugi, because she's been blindfolded when taken hostage. Chapter 5 is focused on Anzu once more. An alleged sidekick named Kokurano becomes interested in her, and in attempts to make her fall for him, he tells her a made-up prediction for the future. She is to see a man already close to her and falls so in love with him she is going to swoon before him. Yugi is doubtful, and after hearing Kokurano allegedly predicted a fire is going to happen, and it actually happening 3 days later, he begins to suspect that the sidekick makes his predictions come true. Kokurano predicts Yugi is going to have countless letters fall on him, and actually pushes a bookshelf to fall on Yugi in the school library. Realizing he wasn't mistaken, Yugi's dark form comes out in an attempt to stop Kokurano before hurting Anzu. In a classroom, Kokurano places chloroform against Anzu's mouth, causing her to pass out in front of him. Proud that his prediction came true, he shouts that she swooned before him and how every girl will be his. Dark Yugi approaches. He proposes a shadow game. Each of the players will try to pull a sheet of paper at a time from under the bottle of chloroform, and whoever causes the bottle to fall loses. Kokurano fails, and after the bottle falls and chloroform is released, he also passes out. Dark Yugi sees him spread out on the floor and notices many pieces of paper with made-up possible predictions he would pass off as true should they happen, stuck to the inside of Kokurano's coat. He concludes Kokurano won't wake up until tomorrow, and by that time, everybody in the school will notice the cheat sheets and recognize him as a fake. Chapter 6 takes place at a festival. Every class is to have a booth, and Yugi's is at the best spot because they won it in a lottery. They plan on doing carnival games, and everything is looking to be a success. However, another class shows up, led by Goro Inogashira, and tears down Yugi's booth, claiming it's in their spot, also putting Yugi in the hospital while doing it. After feeling a bit better, Dark Yugi invites Inogashira to play a shadow game for the spot at the festival. They will hit a block of ice towards each other over a piping hot grill using spatulas. Inside the block of ice are explosive chemicals, and should the explosive hit the grill, the one getting burned will give up their spot at the festival. Dark Yugi makes the ice block crack, and after Inogashira hits it incredibly hard, it breaks, and its contents explode in his face. Afterwards, Yugi's class takes back its rightful spot, and the carnival games are a big success. In Chapter 7, we are introduced to Miho Nosaka. She actually becomes a main character in the 1998 anime adaptation, but originally she only made this one appearance. Yonuchi and Honda want to get Yugi's help with Honda's crush on Miho. They will give her a present, and Yugi's family shop that sells games is the perfect place to look for a gift. Honda buys a jigsaw puzzle, and Yugi has to come up with a message to write on it. They place the puzzle inside Miho's desk. Meanwhile, the teacher, Miss Chono, is angry in the school bathroom and smashes a mirror in frustration. Her greatest pleasure is dating and turning down men that seem unsuitable to her. However, she was turned down herself and is struggling to keep calm. After smashing the mirror, she realizes the glass hurt her face and covers it with a lot of makeup. Back in class, she decides to take some anger out on the students and makes them empty out the contents of their desks for an inspection. After finding the puzzle and Miho being unaware of who sent it, she begins to assemble it on her own. The message on it indicates love, and since underage dating is forbidden in the school, she asks which students sent the puzzle to expel them as punishment. All three, Yugi, Yunuchi, and Honda, stand up, wanting to take the blame for each other. Miss Chono has not finished the puzzle yet, so the sender still remains unknown. Dark Yugi comes out to protect his friends and changes the jigsaw puzzle into a shadow game. He tells Miss Chono that since she hurts people a lot, from now on, every time she does it, she will be hurt as well. After finishing the puzzle, she prepares to call the name of the sender out loud, but her makeup starts to crack in the shape of jigsaw pieces and falls off her face. Embarrassed, she yells this class never happened and runs out. Honda professes his love to Miho directly, and she kindly turns him down. In Chapter 8, Yunuchi buys very rare and expensive shoes. The store owner doesn't want to sell them at first and challenges Yunuchi to stick a foot inside of the shoe, in which he allegedly put a poisonous live scorpion that usually resides on a string around his neck. Yunuchi does it, and the owner admits to never actually putting the scorpion inside, since he doesn't want to damage important shoes. He then pays a couple guys to steal the shoes back and beat up Yugi and his friends. After getting back at them and finding out what happened, Yugi transforms into Dark Yugi and wants to punish the store owner. He challenges him to a shadow game. The aforementioned scorpion is placed inside the shoe together with a fistful of coins. They are to take turns taking out as many coins as possible without getting stung. And Dark Yugi would even pay the owner more for each coin he manages to take out. After getting too greedy, the store owner stabs the shoe with a knife in an attempt to kill the scorpion and take all of the coins. After reaching inside, his hand gets stuck, and he gets stung by the scorpion he didn't manage to kill. Yugi doesn't remember anything after he transforms into Dark Yugi, as always, and after getting back to his friends, he says that he woke up holding the shoes and the store owner was rushed to the hospital. Chapter 9 is very important. Not only is it the first unfinished chapter continuing in Chapter 10, but it is also the first time the Duel Monsters game makes an appearance, and together with it, the character of Seto Kaiba. He is introduced to us as Yugi's schoolmate, who finds out Yugi's grandpa owns an extremely rare Duel Monsters card called Blue Eyes White Dragon. At the beginning of the chapter, Grandpa Sugoroku introduces Duel Monsters, and we are made aware of its rules. While Yugi's friends and Grandpa are talking, Kaiba enters the family game shop and sees the card Grandpa is showing the kids. He immediately recognizes it as an important, powerful, and rare card and demands to look at it and inspect it. He realizes if he was to have it, he'd be unbeatable and wants to trade a briefcase of cards for the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Sugoroku says it's not for trade because it means a lot to him, having been a gift from a dear gamer friend. He attempts to explain the importance of treasuring your cards, saying they can grow hearts of their own if being taken care of well. But Kaiba doesn't care. He says he will get it. The next day at school, Yugi plays Duel Monsters with Yunuchi and wins. Kaiba notices he brought Grandpa's card to school with him and pretends to examine it. He switches it for a fake and takes the real one. After school, Yugi catches up to him and explains he saw what Kaiba did, but didn't want to call him out in front of everyone. Kaiba denies it and even goes as far as to say he doesn't care about loving your cards and how the only important thing is to win. Dark Yugi decides he needs to teach Kaiba a lesson and take back Grandpa's card. They play a game of Duel Monsters, but the rules are a bit different. It is a shadow game still. As they make their first moves, monsters emerge from the cards and take on actual small forms. Yugi tells Kaiba that a penalty game awaits the loser. Chapter 10 is the continuation of the previous one. The duel is still taking place, and we are made aware of some more rules of the game. Yugi brings out Summoned Skull, and Kaiba mentions how strong it is while not being able to beat it or even defend himself. In a losing position, he decides he needs to take matters into his own hands and use the stolen Blue Eyes White Dragon if he was to win. While complimenting Dark Yugi to distract him, he takes the card out of his pocket and slips it into his hand, pretending to draw it for turn. Yugi recognizes it immediately, but Kaiba still denies everything and says he just happens to have the exact same card. To his content, he almost beats Dark Yugi and gets incredibly happy while preparing to deal the final blow to his life points. He orders Blue Eyes White Dragon to attack Summon Skull, but the monster doesn't obey. Dark Yugi explains that Kaiba's soul is not in the card, and the dragon slowly disappears. Being torn apart by an order from Kaiba and the unwillingness to attack Dark Yugi because of his grandpa, it decides that self-destruction is the solution. It's Dark Yugi's turn now, and he activates a spell card, Monster Reborn. With the now reborn Blue Eyes White Dragon, he attacks Kaiba's life points directly and wins the duel. For the penalty game, Kaiba is sent to the world of duel monsters by Dark Yugi, who gives him an illusion of dying and being transformed into a card to teach him what the heart of the cards means. He believes this is a way for Kaiba to become a true game master, just like his grandpa. Chapter 11 is important for Yunuchi's evolution as a character. His friends Yugi, Anzu, and Honda notice Yunuchi has missed a couple days at school, and after going to his home, they realize his father hasn't seen him either. They go looking for him, but to no avail. However, just as they almost give up, a group of students from another school mugs a person nearby. To their immense surprise, they notice Yunuchi among them, and also see one of his former friends named Hirotani, who Yunuchi stopped hanging out with. Yugi asks Yunuchi to come back, but gets punched by another member, and the group leaves. Anzu, Yugi, and Honda discuss the events and agree that Yunuchi can be back with Hirotani's gang out of free will, so they decide to follow them. Meanwhile, Hirotani's group is hanging out, and we find out Yuchi was forced to join them again after the leader threatened to beat up every kid in his class at school because he wanted Yunuchi back, since he used to have a lot of skills useful to the gang. Yunuchi punches the guy that hit Yugi and crosses Hirotani by doing that. The chapter is concluded by the leader ordering his group to hold Yunuchi down to be taught a lesson. This concludes the events for the year 1996. The manga has just been released but has already taken off and started to gain a fan base. Its unique content, paired up with Takahashi's profound artistic style, immediately made it a hit. If you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, as well as which chapter of the manga you found most interesting and enjoyable. I'll see you in the next one, when we cover Yu-Gi-Oh's evolution through the year 1997 as well as more chapters.